Malcolm Hayes boarded the plane with the composed grace that defined him, wearing a crisp navy suit and polished black shoes. His calm demeanor was not forced but natural, the kind of ease that only comes with self-assurance forged through years of discipline and service. The federal judge was well known in legal circles for his sharp mind and unwavering integrity. But none of that mattered to the flight attendant who approached him moments after he settled into seat 1A in first class. "You don't belong up here," were the first words Sarah Benton uttered, her voice clipped and authoritative. Malcolm looked up, surprised but unruffled. "I'm sorry. Please show me your boarding pass," she demanded. Without hesitation, Malcolm handed over the neatly folded slip. Sarah scrutinized the ticket, reading the name aloud, Malcolm Hayes. "Seat 1A. First class." She glanced at him again, her gaze narrow and skeptical. "Sir, I'm going to have to ask you to move to economy. We'll sort this out once we're in the air." There was no argument from Malcolm. He closed his book, tucked his briefcase beneath his arm, and rose to comply, his expression unreadable. As he made his way down the aisle toward the back of the plane, conversations hushed, heads turned, but no one spoke up. Settling into a cramped seat at the rear, Malcolm took out his phone and composed a short message. It was not to complain. It was a factual report, removed from first class despite valid boarding pass. No explanation. Flight 714. Horizon Air. Lead attendant Sarah Benton. What Sarah failed to recognize in that moment was that Malcolm Hayes was not merely another traveler. He was a sitting federal judge whose quiet authority extended far beyond the courtroom. With a single phone call, he could ignite a process that would reach the highest levels of the airline's executive leadership. And that's exactly what happened. At Horizon Air's operations center, an alarm bell sounded. The legal and PR teams were alerted. The CEO was briefed. Captain James Larson, piloting the flight, received a direct call from the executive response team. His face paled as he listened to the terse explanation. "Captain, the passenger removed from first class was Judge Malcolm Hayes. We have a situation." The captain immediately summoned Sarah to the cockpit. "Did you remove a passenger from seat 1A?" he asked, his voice low but tense. "Yes," Sarah answered, confused by the urgency. "I checked his pass. But he didn't seem like—" The captain cut her off. "Didn't seem like?" "Sarah, he's a federal judge. You had his boarding pass in your hand. There was no mistake." Panic flickered in Sarah's eyes as the reality of her actions began to sink in. "What do you want me to do?" she asked, her voice cracking. "You're going to fix it," the captain said flatly. Sarah walked the long aisle back to the economy section, her professional mask slipping as her nerves frayed. Passengers watched her, some curious, others judgmental, as she approached Malcolm. He sat poised, hands folded neatly on his lap, eyes staring out the window. "Sir," she began, voice softer now, "there's been a misunderstanding. I'd like to escort you back to your original seat." Malcolm turned to her slowly, his gaze steady and penetrating. "A misunderstanding? You checked my boarding pass. You knew my name. What exactly was unclear?" Sarah stammered but found no words. The cabin remained silent, the tension thick. Finally, Malcolm stood, picked up his briefcase, and nodded. "Let's go." The walk back to first class felt like a procession. No one spoke, but eyes followed them. The authority Sarah once exuded had crumbled. She felt exposed, judged by the very people she tried to impress. Back in seat 1A, Malcolm resumed his place as though nothing had happened, reopening his book but not reading. His mind raced, not with anger, but with disappointment. Not just at Sarah, but at the casual ease with which such bias unfolded. Meanwhile, Horizon Air's crisis team mobilized. A formal review was underway before the wheels even touched down. By the time the plane landed, a private vehicle was waiting for Judge Hayes at the gate. Security met Sarah at the aircraft door. She was escorted to an operations room for questioning. In the hours that followed, the story spread. Passengers who had witnessed the incident began sharing what they'd seen. A video surfaced, grainy footage taken by a business-class traveler showing Malcolm quietly complying as Sarah ordered him to the back of the plane. The backlash was swift. Headlines blazed. Federal judge removed from first class without cause. Social media erupted with criticism of the airline and calls for accountability. At Horizon's corporate headquarters, emergency meetings were held. The CEO demanded a complete review of crew conduct policies and bias training. Sarah was suspended pending investigation. Malcolm, meanwhile, remained silent. He refused interviews, issued no statement. But his silence was not passive. It was deliberate, thoughtful, a contrast to the loud defensiveness the world had come to expect from such scandals. His restraint spoke volumes. When the airline's internal affairs team sat down with Sarah, the questioning was direct. Did you verify his boarding pass? Yes. Why did you still ask him to move? Sarah struggled for words. I assumed. He didn't look like. Like what, Ms. Benton? Like someone who belongs in first class. She couldn't answer. The truth lay bare without the need for further explanation. Days passed. Horizon issued a formal apology to Judge Hayes and announced mandatory retraining for all staff. But the damage to Sarah's career was done. Her resignation came quietly, submitted without fanfare, the weight of shame evident in every word. In the privacy of his chambers, Malcolm finally drafted a single reply to the letter she'd sent, a heartfelt apology. Not for publicity, but as a genuine attempt at self-reflection. Ms. Benton, I accept your apology. Not because I need it, but because you do. May this moment stay with you, not as a scar, but as a reminder. Growth only happens when we confront the parts of ourselves we would rather ignore. Sarah read those words over and over again, each time feeling the weight of what she had done. She left the airline industry altogether, choosing instead to work at a local community center, where she began speaking honestly to young people about bias, judgment, and the dangers of certainty. The incident became a case study in corporate training programs across the country. Other airlines quietly reviewed their own practices, eager to avoid the same fate. But for Malcolm Hayes, the true victory was not in public apologies or corporate policy changes. It was in the quiet dignity of holding firm, refusing to be diminished, and allowing the truth to stand on its own. Because sometimes the loudest voice in the room is the one that chooses not to speak.